Wall Street, we got the Professor Tony from Quick Hits over here, ready to school y'all on who we're buying, selling, and holding. How we doing, Tony?
I like it. I like the professor intro. That works. Good. How are you doing?
We're gonna make that a thing. That's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, man, I like it. Got my professor glasses on, so I got the look down pat.
Yeah, we're going to get you on social media so you can have this professor persona, man. I'm telling you.
100%.
We already got people in the chat asking for you and clamoring for you, so we might as well build you up a persona and make you famous, right?
Sure, why not? Hopefully I don't disappoint.
Oh, never. Never. All right, man. You ready to hop in here and get going?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's roll.
All right. Well, let's pull this bad boy up. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, we're better on top, aren't we? Giggity.
I like it that way.
All right. So let's jump in here with your first buy on the list.
Sure.
Let's go with Austin Ekeler.
Austin Ekeler, that's an easy one for me. He's
for everybody.
What's that?
Should be an easy one for everybody.
I think right now he's RB4 on the season, but he's disappointed the last 2 out of 3 games. People are panicked on him. I mean, I see him being traded away. I see people being very bearish on Austin Ekeler. I know that this offense has been struggling a little bit. He does get a very soft Minnesota defense this week. And if you're looking for a top 5 running back who has an awesome schedule in the fantasy playoffs, I mean, this is your guy. In weeks 13 through 16, he plays Cincinnati, the Giants, the Chiefs, and Houston. I mean, all of these are incredible matchups.
I'm going to bring back an oldie. We're raising the roof on that. I'm bringing back an oldie.
You've got to. And so
nobody's raised the roof in years.
This is the opportunity to buy him now while his value is really low. I know that we'll see it lower than this, especially going up against this soft Minnesota defense. We could very, very easily see him get right back on track this week. So you have a small window here to buy him, but big time buy on Austin Ekeler.
It's a very small window, the tiniest of windows. But yeah. I don't know why anybody would be worried about him, to be honest with you. But
because he's disappointed the last 2 out of 3 weeks, or 2 out of the last 3 games.
I know, so, man. People are too fickle. They give up too quickly, right?
That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Way too quickly. All right, I'm gonna hit one now that really had me intrigued because he's been on your sell list the last 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks, maybe 3. I don't know.
I've been calling for the past 3 weeks or so on Ja'Marr Chase. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, Ja'Marr Chase.
Yeah, so for several weeks, I was calling out selling Chase at an all-time high. This guy's value was through the roof. And kind of I was encouraging everyone to sell him for top value and cash out on his stock. He's on his bye this week. We see that he has another brutal matchup in week 11 versus the Raiders, who have been really, really tough against opposing wide receivers. So between now and after that game, it might be a great opportunity now to buy him back for pennies on the dollar. I still do not like his fantasy playoff schedule. He does have a very rough, brutal schedule down the stretch, but to pay a discounted price for a high upside wide receiver like Chase, it might be worthwhile, at least worth investigating and seeing what type of a deal you might be able to get for him.
Yeah, totally worth looking into. Kid's legit. I mean, he's, the next probably matchup proof receiver in the league. Maybe not this year, but he's a stud for sure. As opposed to you're buying Chase, but what about his teammate Joe Mixon?
Well, let me just follow real quick here on Chase. If they shore up that offensive line, I like his prospects a lot more. But the whole thing about trading fantasy is finding the right opportunity to sell players and then finding the right opportunity to buy players. Just because the guy was a sell high 3 weeks ago doesn't mean he isn't a buy low now. So it depends on value, depends what type of price you're going to pay. But a couple of weeks ago, I flipped Ja'Marr Chase and I got, now turns out Calvin Ridley wasn't a good wasn't a good buyback based on what we've learned in the past couple of weeks. But at the time, he was great. He was still an elite receiver, so I was able to get Ridley and Waller. Waller is still an elite tight end, so I'm not upset about the deal. But that's the type of value I was able to get out of Chase. Now you can give, like I say, pennies on the dollar to get him back.
Just
you
like,
want to jump to Joe Mixon.
Just like the stock market, it goes up and down, right?
Yeah, you want to buy IBM when it's trading at a low, when a bad report comes out, and then when the good report comes out and the stock doubles, you sell it. That's the concept. So Joe Mixon. So it's not that I don't like Joe Mixon. He's coming off 2 strong outings, 24 points, 27 points in full PPR. However, his schedule has been mostly favorable, which is about to change for him. He's got the bye week this week, and it could be a perfect sell high spot on Mixon. He has one of the lowest efficiencies for many of your top running backs. He has one of the lowest utilizations for top running backs. And I kind of view him moving forward more as an RB2. But you can probably get RB1 value for him.
Yeah. I love me some Joe Mixon, but yeah, his schedule's ridiculous.
And he's coming off, like I said, he had a very favorable schedule up to this point. So
yeah, but that's going to flip flop. So yeah, I agree with you. Sell high if you can. Let's see, where do we go next? Let's hit Alvin Kamara.
Okay, so it's kind of almost like the Jamar Chase sale a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
I want to I want to lead this kind of conversation by making it very clear that Kamara he's an elite running back. He's an elite talent running back, and so having him on this list has more to do with the injury to quarterback, with Jameis Winston going down, and now the signing of Mark Ingram. His usage numbers have taken a pretty big hit. He went from 24 to 26 carries in weeks 3 and 4 to 13 carries last week. I don't want to overreact here, but Ingram is going to have a larger and larger role in this offense than Kamara owners would like. He has a tough matchup this week. So I think between now and next week, it looks like a good opportunity to sell him high. And again, I want to make this very clear that you're selling him at an elite value and you're looking to get real value in return. So we're not just giving the guy away.
We're not dumping.
But if you can, we talked about Ekeler as a buy. So if you can take Kamara and you can flip him and you can buy a guy like an Ekeler and add in a wide receiver 2 or better, I do it. If you can get Ekeler and another guy who's on our buy list today, like a Brandin Cooks, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Well, since you brought up Brandin Cooks, let's just go there next.
Yeah, this is the time right now to buy on Cooks. Think about this for a second. If I told you to give me a list of 10 receivers going into the season that at the halfway point was going to lead the league in air yards, Brandin Cook wouldn't be nowhere on your radar. But yet that's exactly what he's doing. He's leading the league in air yards. He's getting elite volume. He had to get rid of that rust game. This first game back with Tyrod, it was kind of just get that rust, shaken off. And they've got their bye week this week. So this really, I think, is the buy opportunity on Brandin Cooks. And he's going to help you make a push for your fantasy postseason.
Yeah, but the window is closing, so get on it.
The window is closing. They have Tennessee out of their bye in week 11, so you're going to want to have them for that game.
Let's hit Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, so Josh Jacobs for me, I put him this week in the hold column. Are a little bit panicked on Josh Jacobs. I totally get it. Drake is outscored Jacobs 3 weeks in a row now, but Jacobs is still the RB1 in this offense.
Believe it or not,
going to continue to get his touches. I'm not panicked on Jacobs. I'm not ready to sell him. And I'm not necessarily buying stock in him either. He, to me, is kind of at this stage of the season, kind of the perfect guy who represents a hold. You're going to hold your position with Jacobs, and you're going to continue to use him in your lineup. But I wouldn't sell. You're not going to get value for him, and I'm not really quite ready to buy him yet.
Yeah, people are probably panicking pretty good on him right now with the Drake situation.
Yeah, no, Kenyon Drake, and it's not that Kenyon Drake isn't going to have value, but like I say, Jacobs is still the RB1 here.
Absolutely. Let's jump over here to Mike Williams. He's somebody we get a lot of questions about. People don't know what to make of him right now.
So I don't necessarily love Williams, but this might be a great time to buy him at an all-time low this season. He was on fire
His
through
value's
week
tanked.
5. What's that?
His value's tanked now.
Yeah, but he's totally crashed the past 3 weeks. So, but the whole offense has kind of been derailed a little bit, and that includes Justin Herbert.
Mhm.
He is the type of guy, though, that can turn it back around, and he can be, based on what you're going to pay for him, this guy has the potential to be a league winner. So I would buy him now if you can get him cheap.
Yeah.
And people are running scared on Mike Williams, so you're not going to have to pay a hefty price to get him onto your roster.
Right. And I forget off the top of my head who they play this week.
They play Minnesota.
That's right. It's a good matchup. So if you can get him before Sunday, then I would try very hard.
Yeah. It is a good matchup. It's a favorable matchup for them, so I would agree with you. This could be the week. But
Yep.
regardless of what he does this week, even if he has if it's another bust, I'm still buying Mike Williams. I want to get him on my roster because if he does turn it back around, I mean those 40-point games can win you a week, and you're going to want to win these weeks as we pull down the into the fantasy playoffs.
Absolutely. Speaking of 40-point weeks, your top waiver ad of the week, James Conner.
Yeah, I kind of got into him in the waiver wire pickup. I've seen Connor now though on a bunch of sell lists, and I don't get it. Like I see him right now as a great buy. You're not going to have to pay RB1 value for him, and he right now moving forward for the foreseeable future is an RB1. I mean, he hasn't hit his peak value. He plays the Carolina defense this week, so there are going to be many owners who are going to be afraid to line him up against this Carolina defense, and I get it. I'm not saying it's a great matchup. And then he also has his bye in 2 weeks, but you're going to be really hard pressed to find another running back this late in the season with the type of upside that Connor has in this offense. He's looking at 20 plus touches a game. He, he's a threat to score each game. He gets all of those goal line carries. This is a very potent offense. If he struggles against a very, very tough Carolina defense, I'd be all over him and buying him. By the way, Chase Edmonds is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. It could be more because we don't know the severity of this ankle sprain, but he is going on the short-term IR, and they're talking about 4 to 6 weeks. But you know how this can be. And if Connor continues to impress, I'm not too worried about Edmonds coming back.
I was going to say, at that point, does it even matter if Edmonds comes back? Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, this is a high-powered offense. We haven't seen it this past week. Kyler Murray is injured. DeAndre Hopkins has been banged up, but that's who this offense is. So they're going to get healthy, and they're going to get back on track. And for me, I think Connor is a buy every day for me.
Another popular waiver ad this week for some people was Jordan Howard. What are you thinking about him?
Yeah, so I think Jordan Howard. It's funny. More or less he's come out of nowhere in this offense. He is getting carries, and I think he's going to continue to get carries. But I'm just not a fan of these committee backfields. His role could change from week to week. At some point, Sanders is due back. And so
Mhm.
for me, I kind of see him as a sell. I think there are people who are really, really excited about Jordan Howard, and you might be able to squeeze some good value out of him. I'm looking at his schedule here. He's got Denver this week, and then he plays New Orleans. He's got the Giants. He does have the Jets in week 13 before his bye. So not great matchups other than that Jets matchup in week 13, which is super nice. But outside of that, I just, like I said, the committee backfield. I'm still not convinced that Gainwell isn't going to have a role. And we've got Boston Scott there. For me, I just rather sell him and move on and try and get peak value out of him.
Now, I do have a bonus question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were very disappointed with the volume that Miles Sanders got before he got hurt. They seem to be throwing a lot. Since he's gone down, they seem to be running more and throwing less.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he will get that kind of volume when he comes back, Sanders? Is he worth maybe a buy right now?
I'm not buying Sanders. I don't think Sirianni, I don't think this coaching staff is big on Sanders. There were a lot of rumors coming out of Philadelphia on Sanders that he was on the trade block. They were looking to move him before the trade deadline. I personally, I think what we've seen is this coaching staff is sour on Sanders. And I do not see him coming back and taking over this running back role in the Philadelphia offense. I think it is going to be some type of a committee, some type of a timeshare. I'm not saying Sanders isn't going to have a role, but it's going to change. So for me, I'm dumping, and I mean, you can't really sell Sanders right now for much.
No.
But I'm not buying Sanders. If you have him, I guess you have to hold him.
Okay.
But and also real quick, Kyle, too, I think part of the reason why they've been running so heavy is matchup. They had some really nice
That's true.
matchups and another thing too, we kind of talked about this with Lamar Jackson. It's difficult to kind of get excited about the running back position on a team where the quarterback is part of that committee.
Right. Yeah. Excuse me. I completely agree with you, and I just know how frustrating that can be. Like owning Sanders, he's not getting any carries. He goes out and then, oh look, 20 carries for Jordan Howard. Like,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to
That
touch
could
base.
be Jordan Howard's going to get carries. So he had 17 carries on Sunday, and he might continue to get double-digit carries. But when you have a guy like this who's very heavy on carries, although he does get the goal line looks as well, it makes him touchdown dependent unless he can really produce, unless his efficiency is really high. It becomes very touchdown dependent because they're not utilizing him at all in the passing game. So to me, I view him as a sell.
Okay.
I think he has a cap ceiling, and he's not somebody I get excited about getting onto my team.
Yeah. I never feel good about getting Eagles on my team anyway as a Cowboys fan. But Jonathan says he can't read this. Maybe you just need to blow your screen up. There's not a good way to do it with a tiny screen, so I'll blow it up when we're done so you can see a final board. But if you're watching on your TV or full screen, it should be fine. You mentioned the Ravens talking about them running backs. Hit us with some Devonta Freeman facts.
This is the type of stuff that stumps me because this guy is all over the place on the waiver wire ads, and I've been saying all along, stay away from Baltimore running backs. He has posted some decent numbers, and there are some out there who obviously are very excited about him. For me, I'm trading him. I'm trading him now before his value plummets. The only running back to own on this team is Lamar Jackson. That's it. Outside of Lamar Jackson, because Devonta Freeman, so he has had some decent numbers, but he's also the type of running back on Sunday that could have 5 carries for 10 yards and 2 catches for 8. So I just don't trust him in this offense. I don't trust any Baltimore running back in this offense. And Lamar Jackson's beginning to air it out an awful lot more. He threw 41 passes on Sunday. So they are not that offense is beginning to kind of change. They're evolving.
They're evolving and they're picking up steam big time.
Yeah, well, they've got some great weapons there in Marquise Brown and in Rashad Bateman. I think Watkins is coming back healthy this week. Of course, Mark Andrews we all know about. So I'm selling. If I can get somebody to buy Devonta Freeman and I can get good value for him, I'm selling him.
Absolutely. All right. I know a lot of people are waiting for this guy to return from injury, myself included. Maybe this week, probably more likely next week. Dawson Knox.
Yeah, some owners have forgotten about Knox. I think with all the buys and we've seen guys like Knox get dropped and people going out and grabbing Freiermuth and grabbing guys like Dan Arnold and Uzuma was a kind of a big waiver ad there for a while to get through the buys. And all along, Knox is still sitting out there, getting healthy. How quickly we forget how this guy took waivers by storm.
Yeah.
And everyone was rushing out to try. It was, it was like week 4 or 5, and Dawson Knox was out there, and those of us who grabbed him have really benefited from him. And so if you have him and you held him through this IR stint, you're not going to sell him now because you're never going to get the value for him. If you don't have him, I don't know that I would necessarily buy him due to some of the struggles that we're seeing on this Bills pass offense. So for me, he's a hold. You're going to hold Dawson Knox. I'm not rushing out to get him. Again, I'm definitely not unloading him because I want to wait and see, take a wait and see approach. I'm going to hold this guy because this is a guy who down the stretch could become very valuable on your team.
Agreed. I've held him on several teams, just waiting in the wings. Let's talk about his teammate, Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, Stefan Diggs, same thing. Stefan Diggs is also a hold. I'm going to put him right there so they can line up together just like they do on Sundays. While there is some concern with Diggs and this Bills offense, I mean, you've got to stick with this guy. He's an elite receiver. He's a top 5 receiver. He's going to get his targets in this pass-heavy offense. You cannot sell him because you would never get his value. So if someone's trying to acquire him from you, he's trying to get him cheap. He's trying to buy him low, and you're not going to get elite wide receiver 1 value for him. And he's not necessarily a guy that I'm targeting to buy much for the same reason that we've just talked about with Dawson Knox, because there are some struggles on this Bills offense, and I'm not quite ready to invest in Diggs just yet. So for me, this is another guy that I'm holding.
Cool. I love me some Stefon Diggs. You know that. I have faith. I have faith that offense will turn it around, but I think that's a smart move for now because if you do try to trade for him, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and he's not worth an arm and a leg at the moment.
Yeah, he's right in that range where you can't sell him for what his value should be, elite wide receiver 1 value, and then you can't buy him for what you want to pay for him or be willing to pay for him. So he kind of falls in that hold range.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to say, Sushi Lover says, "What's up?" My guy. Lover. He's always in here. Chosen Rose, we'll get to your question after we get through our list, buddy. I promise. Let's see. Okay, I know this guy's one of your favorites, Van Jefferson.
I love talking about this kid.
I know you do.
I really do. I really love talking about this guy, Van Jefferson. I was really sneaky about it because I wanted to make sure I could get him on all my different rosters before I broke out the Van Jefferson talk. But once, and I've watched him play on Sunday. Once the Rams released Djax, that was all you needed to know. You can kind of read the tea leaves. You saw that they had the trust in this guy. So many positive things coming out of this Rams coaching staff on Van Jefferson. His father was a pro football player, so he's kind of got the bloodlines. I just love him, and I love his potential in this offense. He might still be available on waivers, and if not, you can probably get him real cheap. Now, Stafford, if you watch that game, Stafford just missed him on that 1D pass in week 9. Actually had caught it and then knocked out of his hands like a 40-yard pass down like the 5-yard line. Then he had 2 passes in the end zone. He had a third one that was going to him, but they got called back for illegal formation. He is getting almost identical snaps and routes and targets as both Cup and Bobby Trees. It's almost an equal split. He is in on just as many snaps as Cooper Kupp in Robert Woods, just as many routes run, and just as many targets. And this is the guy they really use as the deep threat. I think the reason why he didn't have a much bigger game on Sunday was it Sunday night? Yeah,
Yeah.
was because that Tennessee defensive line put a lot of pressure on Stafford. Couldn't give Van Jefferson a chance to get downfield, let these plays develop. But you're going to want a piece of this offense. He is their guy with that mid to deep threat, and I love his rest of season schedule. I'm just buying him wherever I can. So he's a buy for me, and you can buy him real low because nobody really has him valued just yet.
Agreed. I like him a lot as well. They're kind of like Tampa Bay. Like, if you can get a piece of that offense, you want a piece of that offense.
Yeah, but
even the third receiver.
He is really the only guy who fits this particular role. He's kind of like the X factor there in this Rams defense, and it really is amazing how, if you look at the snap share, the snap percentage, the routes run, and the targets, you like, if I took the names away, you wouldn't be able to tell who's who. They're that close. So
Yeah.
I'm all over Van Jefferson. And even if you're not ready to start or plug him into your lineup, grab him and stash him, and let's see what happens over the second half of the season.
Yeah, for sure. It's something like that's definitely worth stashing.
100%.
Let's talk about a guy who made my Cowboys defense look silly last week, Melvin Gordon.
You like some Melvin Gordon?
I don't. Not after last week.
Yeah, so Melvin Gordon.
On a deep personal level, I do not like Melvin Gordon now.
Look, he's been posting some solid numbers, but Williams is coming on. He's getting those touches, getting those carries. Gordon has really turned into, if you look at his stats, he's turned into a touchdown-dependent running back. He just doesn't produce many points unless he has that touchdown to go along with it. So when he doesn't score, he rarely hits more than 10 points in PPR, and that's just not good. You need guys that provide you with a solid floor and who are not always dependent on scoring touchdowns. You're going to need to have, because they're not going to score every week. So for me, Melvin Gordon, coming off a couple of solid games, he to me is a sell high.
Speaking of sell highs, Nyheim Hines.
It's the perfect spot to sell high on Hines if you got him. He posted
the only shot you'll ever have to trade someone like Hines is right now.
He's a guy that's still he's on waivers all over the place as well. So if you have him and it's in your league, there's going to be someone who's probably going to be interested after that game that he put together last week. And remember, he had a couple of explosive plays. Taylor missed part of the first half due to an injury that he did come back from in the second half. So Hines is not a weekly starter. He only has value if something happens to Taylor. So this is not going to be the norm. This is more of an anomaly. So if you can move Hines and get something decent for him, or package him up with something to get, to get something better, I would do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me some Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen's a hold. You're not going to panic on Adam Thielen after one down game. He does have a very tough 3-game stretch starting this week. But after that, on the other side of this 3-game stretch, he gets Detroit, he gets the Eagles, and he gets the Bears on the other side, all teams that are very soft against the pass. So I would hold him. I'm not buying him right now, but again, I'm not selling him either. If anything, I want to wait until after week 12 to buy him. If you want to buy him, you want to get him, wait until he gets through this this tough stretch, and then after week 12, then you can maybe try and buy him low.
Otherwise, you're going to end up waiting out some really rough games.
Yeah, well, he has the Chargers, the Packers, and the 49ers, all negative matchups for running for wide receivers.
Oof.
But then he gets Detroit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just got to time it just right.
You got to time it just right. Absolutely. That's what it's all about at Fantasy Wall Street.
Absolutely. All right, Hollywood Brown.
Oh
Boomer
man,
Sooner.
what's that?
That's my Boomer Sooner guy right there.
You love Hollywood Brown?
Yeah, dude. Played at OU. He's an animal.
Yeah. So Hollywood Brown for me is a buy. This is a guy I'm kind of maybe I'm a little bit of a contrarian because I see um, different people talking about selling Hollywood Brown right now. It's the time to sell him high, but he's turning into a top 5 option. And again, he's been a popular sell high candidate. However, with Lamar airing it out and throwing more passes than he had in prior weeks. Again, I told you he had 41 passes last week.
Yeah.
Brown is really starting to get elite volume. 26 targets in the past 2 weeks. That's insanity in this offense. I wouldn't be selling Brown. He plays he plays one of the best defenses this week. Then he has a very nice schedule in the remainder of the season. So do not sell this guy. Please do not sell this guy. If you're doing anything with Brown, you're trying to get him.
Absolutely. I love it. That passing game, like you said earlier, they're evolving. He's not going anywhere. And they drafted a guy like Bateman to come in and complement him, not so they can pass less. So, yeah, I love
By the way, when I say he plays one of the best defenses this week, what I mean is he plays one of the worst defenses this week in that they are the easiest defense against the pass, one of the easiest in the Miami Dolphins. So when I say he's playing one of the best matchup-wise
best
for wide
matchups.
receivers.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's an important clarification to make.
Yeah, and his schedule's beautiful. Like, he has just an awesome schedule remainder of the season. I don't know why you'd want to sell him.
Yeah, I don't either.
To me, he's trending up still.
Yeah, you gotta love a soft schedule, man. All right, Myles Gaskin, another polarizing player.
Myles Gaskin he's like all over the place this season, and I really liked Gaskin with Malcolm Brown on IR. So I kind of feel like the Dolphins have been auditioning him the past 3 weeks, to see how he would look in kind of more of a feature role without Malcolm Brown, and I think he failed for the most part. Last week he carried the ball, 30 times for 34 yards. Is that right?
I think he had like 20 carries for
20 carries for 34 yards.
34 yards, and then
he's
involved
in the passing game.
I think he had like 2 or 3 catches for another 20-something yards. Like, it wasn't good.
Yeah, he's involved in the passing game. But 6 catches for 23 yards isn't going to light the world on fire either. So Malcolm Brown is eligible to return next week. So I think this could really be the time to sell high on Gaskin. He had 20 carries. I said 30. 20 carries for 34 yards. Just checking.
Which is awful.
Whatever it is, it's horrendous.
That's an awful yards per carry average right there.
I mean, horrible efficiency. And I think if I can sell him, I'm selling him.
If. That's the thing is if.
There'll be a buyer. There's always a buyer.
Yeah.
Again, he could be a throw-in guy. He could be a guy you can add to.
Find the guy that doesn't pay attention to anything. And all right, these last two you paired together, Mr. Chase Claypool and Deandre.Johnson.
I'm all over these two. These are
both
buys. I like the stack.
All right.
Either one of them. If you can get either one of them, I'd make a push to try and get either one. And let me just start with this. You were talking about matchups. The Pittsburgh wide receivers have the easiest remaining schedule for opposing defenses. So they will be both of them are going to be heavily involved in this Steeler passing offense. And I just see both of them as a great buying opportunity. It might be too late after this week because this week their matchup is versus the Lions. And so if you can get one of these receivers, preferably Deandre.Johnson, obviously I'd rather have over Claypool, but either one of them is a buy for me with this remaining schedule. And it's, you could definitely buy them a little bit low right now.
And you could probably even chunk old Freiermuth in there with them too if you wanted to.
Definitely. Sure. But Freiermuth is already kind of a guy who's on people's radar. People have been acquiring him.
I know I
Chase
have.
Claypool and Deandre.Johnson have kind of disappointed a little bit based on what you might have been expecting from them. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a buying opportunity, but you've got to love the remaining schedule. And again, it starts this week against this Detroit Lion defense.
Yep. All right. Well,
I did give you. I don't know if you pulled the card. I did give you one other. It's my super surprise buy. Maybe my buy of the week, you could say.
I wish I had like a drum roll sound effect.
Yeah, we could do a drum roll. This is more of a surprise to you than our listening audience because I was trying to catch you off guard, but I told you before we went live. So I love DeAndre Hopkins as a buy low. He is right now, he's the wide receiver 19 on the season, and people are really low on DeAndre Hopkins because he missed last week. I want to point out that he is getting up there in age, but he's been incredibly durable throughout his career. This is only the third game that he has missed, believe it or not, 3 games in 9 years. So he is at a season low right now in value. Murray was out last week. Murray could be out again this week. Buy him now. He is a perennial top 5 wide receiver. He has a beautiful schedule during the fantasy playoffs, getting the Detroit Lions. He has the Colts, and he has Dallas. Again, Murray and Hopkins might both miss another week, but this is the time. This is the time to get him. You're going to want him coming out of their bye week in week number 12. And in case you forgot who DeAndre Hopkins is, because how quickly we forget players when you get other guys bursting onto the scene like Jamar Chase. In the past 4 years, he finished wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4 overall. I don't know if there's anybody else that's had that track record the past 4 years. I have to go look up maybe Devontae Adams. Get this guy now. You could get him cheap. You can get him for tremendous value and get him onto your roster.
You should trade him to me in Dynasty, just saying.
Well, we're talking redraft. Dynasty, his value is a little bit different because he's going to be 30. So this is not me trying to sell DeAndre Hopkins to you.
No, I know. I just
make a deal with me in Dynasty. That's not to say I don't like him in Dynasty.
I like to yank that chain a little is all.
Yeah, so Kyle and I have been talking trades, and one of the trades we've been talking, I have DeAndre Hopkins in our Dynasty League, and includes DeAndre Hopkins. So yeah, so we've been kind of going back and forth on him. But I did not want to miss talking about him a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I completely.
And this offense, by the way, this offense really misses him. If you watch them, they struggle without Hopkins.
Misses Kyler Murray too. A lot. Misses both of them. All right, let's hop over here and hit a couple questions. First, I'm gonna pop this up bigger, like I promised, so that everybody can see the names. Hopefully, there for a moment. Take you a screen capture if you need to. Refer to it when setting your lineups or looking at trades. Sorry, misspoke. And then we'll jump over here. First question we had was from Chosen Rose. Start 2, Emmanuel Sanders, Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk, Jerry Jeudy, or Russell Gage?
So I always like to kind of start. Great question. Can you put it back up so I can? Did you remove? Oh,
it's
I
see
see it.
No, it's still up there.
I see. Yeah. So I always like to kind of approach it differently. I try to eliminate the guys first rather than trying. This way I know who I'm really picking between. And so the 2 guys that, when I look at this list, the 2 guys that I would cross off immediately are Russell Gage and Christian Kirk. Now, Russell Gage did get back on track this week, and I think he is going to be the receiver to own in Atlanta. But the week that Calvin Ridley was out, he had 0 targets. And so I don't like having a wide receiver on my roster or in my starting lineup who gives me the potential to have 0 targets. And so that makes me really, really nervous about Russell Gage. And I just don't know about Christian Kirk. Murray could miss this game. We could be looking at Colt McCoy. I'm just not convinced that that's going to be a good play this week, especially against this Carolina defense. So I'm crossing those 2 guys off, and you're deciding between Jeudy, Renfrow, and Sanders. I really love Derek Carr this week. I love him in this matchup against Kansas City. I think this has the potential to be a high-scoring game. So for me, I believe it or not, I have Renfrow probably as a definite. And so it goes between Jerry Jeudy and Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know if you have any opinion on that. I know Buffalo has the Jets this week, which is a really nice matchup. Denver
Yeah.
has the Philadelphia Eagles, who have been really, really tough against the pass. So I might lean more Emmanuel Sanders
Yeah.
and go with Renfro and Sanders in this lineup. It's kind of tempting to have Judy in that mix. So I don't know. What do you think, Kyle?
I completely agree with you. Judy is very tempting, but because of his matchup, I like Sanders and Renfro. And like you, Renfro was my first autumn. Like I saw him and I was like, he's in there. Now we got to figure out the other one. And like Kirk was my initial auto out, Renfro was my auto in. And then it was like, okay, let's pick between these other ones. But I do like Sanders against the Jets a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Jets have been one of the friendliest defenses in fantasy. So they're one of the
Yeah.
friendliest opposing defenses in fantasy this year. Allen has a beautiful matchup. This whole team has a nice matchup. I think it's a get right game for the Buffalo offense.
I do
And
too.
so I would lean Sanders myself. So
Yeah, because we were talking the other night a little bit about that cover two shell defense that people are using against them in Kansas City and all of that. I don't think the Jets have the personnel to pull that off. So I definitely think it's a get right game
yeah,
for that offense for sure. All right, let's jump over here to Mr. Sarcastic. Welcome back, man. Is
Mr.
Aaron
Sarcastic. I like this guy.
Oh, dude, he's everywhere. I love it. Is Aaron Jones a safe play rest of the season, or would you trade now? And if so, who for? He's a lock for the playoffs, just looking for playoff winners.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Aaron Jones was one of the guys I was tempted to put on my buy low list tonight. I'm not selling Aaron Jones. I think he is a safe play rest of the season. He is an elite running back, and he is going to have a lot of work in this Green Bay Packer offense. He's going to get his touches. I'm not worried about Dylan coming on. He's involved in their passing game. He gets the goal line looks. I just think we saw a down week with Jordan Love without Aaron Rodgers in the offense. Jordan Love missed Jones on several screen passes. I know you're a lock for the playoffs, which is awesome. And I do think Aaron Jones is a guy you're going to want to have in that fantasy playoff stretch. Weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17. I don't know if you go into 18 or not, but they have the Bears, the Ravens, they have the Browns, the Vikings, and the Lions in week 18. All of those matchups are positive matchups. So I'm not panicked on Jones. I'm not moving Jones. He to me is still an RB1. I still see him as a top 5, top 6 RB in fantasy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to get him in a lot of places buying low already this week. So I very much love me some Aaron Jones. Let's jump over here to Sushi Lover. Elijah Moore or Van Jefferson on waivers?
Wow, that's a really good one. Elijah Moore has the highest ceiling, I think, for any of these Jets receivers. But this offense is a mess. Who's starting this week? Mike White is back behind center. We got Zach Wilson, kind of waiting in the wings. I just don't trust this Jet offense. Let me ask you this question, and this might help you, Sushi Lover. When you're looking at receivers and you're thinking about which receiver you might want to pick up on waivers or in free agency, one of the things that you want to think about as you're debating is who's throwing the ball to them. Do you want the receiver who's involved with the offense catching a ball from one of these Jet quarterbacks? Or do you want a guy who's in a high-powered Rams offense getting equal opportunity with snaps, targets, in routes run as Cooper Kupp and Bobby Trees catching balls from Matt Stafford? To me, it's a no-brainer. I think Van Jefferson is both the safest guy and also gives you the highest ceiling and a guy that you should be able to trust on a weekly basis. He has a real defined role in this offense, and it's not going to change. If anything, it's only going to grow from this point moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. The QB test is always a good test. Like you say, Van Jefferson, I mean, he's already a flex play. So imagine if Robert Woods gets hurt. That kid's gonna go off.
Yeah, well, certainly if anything happens to any one of those other receivers, that skyrockets his value even more. You're right. But again, they have a really they have a nice matchup. They have 16 and 17. They have the Vikings and the Ravens, who are both been very weak against the pass. So
Yeah.
I don't know who else you have on your team, Sushi Lover, and I don't know if he's just kind of be a guy you're going to stash and wait and see what happens. You got other guys you start over him, but this is the guy who can really make a difference in your roster down the stretch.
Absolutely. Gorman giving you credit for the Hopkins graded.
Hey, appreciate that.
Nothing Tony loves more than a good shout out. Acknowledgement.
Appreciate that.
Oh, here comes our resident Kyler Murray lookalike with, did someone say Kyler? Mr. 7 o'clock.
I love me some Kyler.
Oh, 7. That's great. For those of you who don't know, which I think most of you do that are in here, 7 is on his new show Safe Space on Monday nights and on Fantasy Night Live on Saturday nights. So if you don't know him, check him out. If you do, you know he's great. Is OBJ for Claypool a buy low? Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised
too many
OBJ
question marks
owned anymore.
Too many question marks with OBJ, and it looks like one of the teams I think I saw earlier today that it looks like he was leaning towards the Saints.
Yeah,
so,
the Saints were the favorite after the Packers offered him a veteran minimum contract.
Yeah, so there's just too many question marks with OBJ. I think Claypool is a guy that really is someone who's going to give you tremendous opportunity coming down the stretch. He has, again, this Pittsburgh wide receiver core, they have the easiest remaining schedule for wide receivers. To me, I'd like to get Claypool. If you can trade OBJ to get him, I would do it
in a heartbeat.
I didn't see anything about him missing time. Did you see something about him missing time?
Yeah, he had, I forget what the injury
was. What I saw was that he avoided.
He was a little banged up during the game the other night, but I don't think it was serious.
Right. I did see that there was something with his toe, but he avoided a season-ending injury. But I didn't read anything about them expecting him to miss time, although he could. He might. I mean,
it could come up late in the week. We never know, but I haven't seen it yet. No.
Right.
All right, your boy Baba Booey on here again. Should I try and sell Dalvin Cook before anything happens with all this off-field stuff that's going on? Honestly, I think it's already too late because I've tried. Nobody's buying. An hour after the news come out, I couldn't sell him after we were off stream last night.
But what are you going to sell him for?
News travels fast.
But what are you going to trade him for? What's that?
At this point, you can't sell him at all. Everybody's been waiting.
I'm saying, but if you could sell him, what would you sell him for?
I don't know.
What type of trade would you take for Dalvin Cook?
Honestly, I don't know. If someone offered, I really don't. Like, I was sending out offers as if nothing was wrong. But
so
if you trade him, you're going to take a ding on his value. You're going to take
nothing's going to happen to his value.
If nothing happens with that, you're going to take a loss on the trade.
Nothing is going to happen to Dalvin Cook this year. If anything happens with Dalvin Cook, it'll happen in the offseason. Now, if there's a videotape of him punching his girlfriend and from the parking lot and that hits the news media, then it's a different story. But that just doesn't seem like that's the case here. This is kind of a he said, she said. This is all going to have to get sorted out. Many times this turns into a money grab and they settle, out of court. I haven't seen any charges being filed against Dalvin Cook. So all this off the field stuff, he's got money. He's got the best representation. They're going to delay this stuff. They're going to get him through the season. I don't see this derailing his season at all.
But you also have to think about, like, if the team decides it's too much bad press, maybe they do something about it.
Move on from Dalvin Cook?
If the league steps in, like they did with Zeke, when he didn't actually do anything that was, wrong and they suspended him for nothing. Like, you never know what the league's going to do either. So it's kind of a tricky situation until we have more info. like you said, right now it's just he said, she said. But if this thing moves kind of quickly with evidence coming in, who knows? So
If I have Cook, I'm not worried. I'm not selling him.
I'm in
That's
a
me.
holding pattern right now. Like you say, you couldn't sell him for what he's worth, so it's not worth selling him, especially if there's a chance he sticks around. Which
Yeah,
I'm with you. It looks like he's going to stick around. So
obviously I don't have a crystal ball. Anything could happen. I just think it's it's more likely that he finishes this season than doesn't.
if there was a video, that would have been the first thing to come out because that's what happens now. Everybody releases a
telling you,
video
but
and then explains it. So I don't think there is a video. So I don't think anything's really going to come of it.
yeah,
Like you said, he'll probably settle out of court. He'll pay her off just to shut her up or something.
maybe.
That's what happens most of the time in these things, right? All right. He also agrees with you on Mr. Van Jefferson being a great receiver, but you're both right. That Titans D was giving Stafford a rough time the other night.
Yeah, he couldn't stay on his spot. So
That was tough.
appreciate that, Baba Booey.
And then Jonathan Gorman giving 7 o'clock a shout out. # Biscuit King. 7 o'clock is taking over every chat for every video we do. # Biscuit King is a thing. It's officially a thing.
I love it. I love it.
Who's your guys' number one must buy running back?
Who's my number one
Must
buy running back? I don't know that I fully get the question. If it's who's your number one running back that you can buy low, that's a different. If you're saying who's your number one running back rest of season, that is at the top of your buy list, if you could buy him, would probably Jonathan Taylor. I think this guy is a unique talent. You don't see many guys like Jonathan Taylor who can rip one off for 73 yards, 78 yards and score. Maybe a Dalvin Cook, McCaffrey when he was healthy. Certainly saw Derrick Henry do that, but there just aren't many guys who can rip one off at any moment, at any part of the game, who's also involved in the passing game, who is been able to stay healthy, a guy that I would trust down the stretch. So if I could afford to buy any running back, it would probably be Jonathan Taylor.
He just clarified his buy low. I agree with you on Taylor in that situation, but as a buy low.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think we covered some running backs tonight in our buy and sell. There are a couple of guys that I do like. I'm very intrigued by CEH coming off of IR and what his role is going to be in this Kansas City offense. He's a guy that I would look at. Do you have anybody you can think of right offhand, Kyle? There are a number of running backs that I like that I think you can get low, like a Leonard Fournette type guy. I think Darrell Henderson you can probably get low coming off of a down week. Robinson, dealing with that injury, maybe you can get him undervalued. Okay, here you go. Here's a good buy low guy for you, Sushi. Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, that's true.
He would be my number one buy low option because Saquon Barkley. Well, the one thing that Saquon Barkley has over all these other players that I just ran through, just trying to give you names of guys who probably have their value kind of that have taken a little bit of a hit lately. Saquon Barkley is the only guy out of all of those guys who can win you your league. Yeah. Saquon Barkley is a league winner in fantasy. He is heavily involved in both the running game and the passing game. He's been on IR or he's been inactive, not on IR, but he's been kind of inactive with this ankle injury. I kind of like it because it's allowed his knee to continue to heal. So I think the more time he spends off the field, the healthier he's getting overall. And I love this guy down the stretch if you can get him. So hopefully that helps you.
I agree.
Giants are on a bye this week. Giants are on a bye this week. And then they come out in week 11 against Tampa Bay. And I've read where they're hoping that he's going to be back healthy by week 11.
Yeah.
So if you can get a Saquon Barkley and he has a nice game. I mean, once he kind of comes back from the bye, that Tampa Bay game, then he has Philly, the Dolphins, the Chargers, who have been very, very soft against the run. Philadelphia ripped them apart. Dallas, Philadelphia, the Bears, and Washington. So he has a very, very favorable schedule for running backs.
Yeah, I agree. Barkley's at the very, very top of that buy low list, followed by Ekeler, who we talked about tonight, and then Aaron Jones, who we also talked about earlier. Any three of those are going to be.
Is that the answer you're looking for? Hopefully.
If you can. Jonathan Gorman, Hopkins for Evans.
Are you getting Evans or are you getting Hopkins? You're giving Hopkins and getting Evans back?
Sounds like he's giving Hopkins for Evans.
I wouldn't do that.
I'd rather have Hopkins.
I would do the opposite. I wouldn't do that deal. I wouldn't do that. Evans is boom bust. You've got Gronk coming back. You got Antonio Brown coming back. You know, Godwin leads the league in red zone targets. I mean, I wouldn't do that trade.
All three of those banged up though.
Evans is the type of guy. Evans is the type of guy who can give you 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, yeah, I would do that. I would do Evans for Hopkins.
Agreed.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, get Hopkins there for show. That's all we got in the chat, man. Guess we can give him a second here.
We're good.
I'll blow this board up again for a second. Give a shot for 1 or 2 more questions if they have them. Here's your buy, sell, and hold for the week. Now Sushi wants to know our number 1 buy low receiver.
Yeah, Hopkins. We covered him. Hopkins is it. You want me to run through that again with you? Were you here, Sushi Lover, from when we did Hopkins? But Hopkins, to me, he right now is the wide receiver 19. I'm not worried about him being healthy. This guy's been one of the most durable players, not just the most durable receiver, but players overall in the NFL. The past 9 years, he's only the 3rd game that he's missed. And he's finished the top 4 years. He's finished in the top 5, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 4 overall since 2017. On this offense with Kyler Murray, I want him. So to me, I think he's the number 1 buy low receiver out there.
And before you ask, I think my number 1 tight end is going to be Dawson Knox, who we talked about earlier. You can get him for nothing right now. Everybody's tired of waiting on him being injured. What do you think, Tony? Because you know he's going to ask about tight end next.
About Dawson Knox?
Who would be your number 1 buy low tight end? Mine's Knox.
Probably Logan Thomas.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, Logan Thomas, who's kind of disappeared, been on IR, but this guy's going to be heavily involved with this Washington pass offense. I mean, he was a monster last year down the stretch, and I think we could be looking at the same thing for him again this year. You know, he's gonna come off of IR. He's healthy, and I'm expecting big things. Heineke loves to utilize the tight end. If Fitzpatrick gets healthy and he gets back into this offense before the end of the year, he also will boost Logan Thomas's value. So I love Logan Thomas. I think he's a great buy low opportunity. I like him more even than Dawson Knox, only because I think Logan Thomas is more of a lock for the volume. I mean, look, we've seen Ricky Seals-Jones come in and be a streamer.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's been a solid fantasy tight end while he's filling in for Logan Thomas, and he isn't the talent that Logan Thomas is. So then my only issue with Dawson Knox is he doesn't get the volume.
That's true. That is true.
But Logan Thomas type of guy who can be, you know, he's kind of like a poor man's Darren Waller.
Yeah. Daniel love hearing Jones and Barkley on a buy low RB. So for those of you who don't know, Daniel is in our dynasty. He has Barkley. He just acquired Aaron Jones.
It's so funny because I sent him an offer for Barkley yesterday. Of course, he did not. He turned it down in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I've been trying to pry Barkley off of him and DJ Moore.
It doesn't hurt.
He wouldn't trade DJ Moore when he was doing good. Now I don't want him. Take that.
Daniel, you're doing the right thing. Don't trade Barkley, especially in a dynasty league.
Sushi Lovers got Kittle. Y'all think I'm set. Yeah. You might want to grab a backup
if he can stay healthy.
Grab a backup. Make sure you have a backup in case he gets hurt again. But yeah, you're fine.
You definitely want to have a backup, though. Don't wait until he goes down to find somebody. See if you can get somebody now that you can keep stashed on your bench in case something should happen to Kittle, because he's not been able to stay healthy.
But multiple injuries in one season, I don't think we've seen that yet. So,
Assuming he's fully healthy, he might still be injured.
yeah, he didn't play like it last week.
Yeah, Kittle's the type of guy for me personally. Like, to me, sushi lover, I almost view Kittle as a sell high guy. Like, I'm like, okay, Kittle had his big game. Let me move off of Kittle and try and find another guy that I can, depend on a weekly basis. Maybe add something to Kittle. I think if you can package up Kittle and try and get a Darren Waller, a Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, one of those guys. I'd even almost rather have Hawkinson over Kittle just because I just don't trust Kittle's health. But that's me. If Kittle's healthy, he's a top 3 tight end, top 4 tight end, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the health is an issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love me some Kittle, so
I know you love Kittle. If you got a great backup, if you got a guy stashed on your bench, then maybe if you're a gambler and you want to kind of roll the dice and ride him out, that's your call.
Yeah, and I mean that's always been my thing. Like, I love Kittle. I like to get him every year when I can, but I also know I'm gonna need a good backup tight end. So you just have to kind of know that going into the season if he's one of your targets.
Yeah, Jay Gore said he put him on the trade block, not a single offer. So most people are wise to Kittle.
I'm looking at Kittle's career games played here. So he was a rookie 2017, right? 15 games, 2018, 16, 2019, 14. So he only missed a couple of games in those 3 years. And then last year he played 8, and so far 5 this year. So he played half the season last year, and now he's undraftable and unplayable because he's injury prone. Remember back when Frank Gore was injury prone for a couple of years, and then he never missed a game again? Matt Stafford, at his first few years in Detroit, was injury prone, and then he hasn't missed hardly any games since. Like, sometimes these things are fluky. They happen. I don't think after 2 seasons with injuries, I'm not ready to give up on him yet. But it doesn't matter who my tight end is. I want a good backup one. Anyway,
yeah, but admittingly, you have an unhealthy man crush on George Kittle. So
that is
fair. That
is fair.
There has to be in there. If there was a way to put a little bubble out of your mouth with an asterisk next to it while you're talking about Kittle, that would probably be the right thing to do.
Well, that's why I brought up his actual games played, is so
you have a man crush on him. I think all of us who are
bias out of it. I'm using actual games played and actual real life examples of injury prone players from the past that turned it around after a couple of bad seasons with injuries. So,
right.
I mean,
Barkley's
injury prone in the same kind of sense, but we're not giving up on him yet. So,
I hear you, Kittle lover.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying I don't love Kittle.
You love you some Kittle.
I know there's some bias there, but
the guy's soft. He's always banged up. He can't stay healthy. So,
but he's incredible when he's on the field.
He's incredible for the 3 games he's on the field. Yes.
I hate your face right now so much. I'm just trying to get under my skin, and it's working.
I know it's working. I know how to do it.
You're getting me all fired up for no reason.
Exactly. Thanks, Jagar.
Alex has bits and kittles. You god dang right I do. All right. Looks like we're all out of questions. Any final thoughts you want to get out there, Tony, before we sign off?
I'm good. I appreciate everyone. Thanks for your support. I look forward to seeing you guys each week. And this is, one of the highlights of my fantasy week is coming on and doing this Fantasy Wall Street.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. I love that all of these shows that I'm on, we got the same core group of chatters, and I mean, they're friends now. We chat with them every day. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us again. Had a good time, and next week, I'm going to go ahead and start. I won't give you the name but there's a new show premiering next week right after Wall Street. Keep your eye open for that. It's going to be fantastic. And until then, we'll see y'all later.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.